is it your sense that there's a rise in extremist thinking, and how does that impact the fate of the university as we know it?
Well, in a very direct, very brutal way in many instances. I'm talking about Nigeria essentially, but more than Nigeria. I'm talking about a pervasive negative influence and consequences for universities of the rise of religious fundamentalism. And I think universities, first of all, must protect themselves. That's number one. They must protect their students. They must protect their faculty. Sometimes that requires, if you like, state intervention. We're talking practically now. But for me, most important of all is how such thinking is sometimes nurtured by universities, not deliberately, not consciously, but by complacency, by allowing extremist thinking to take hold, even after it has shown its anti-humanist and anti-human tendencies. Take Maiduguri, for instance. When the fundamentalists first closed down the University of Maiduguri in northern Nigeria, that's, I forget how many years ago, I gave a lecture at the University of Port Harcourt, I think there's a technology in Port Harcourt. And I asked the question, I said, where is the University of Maiduguri? And people said, what do you mean, where is it? I said, where is the University of Maiduguri? Maiduguri University had been closed down for almost a year. And I reminded people that in the United States of America, during, I think, the period of Lyndon Johnson, when there was sort of widespread discrimination,
sure,
that Lyndon Johnson sent down the National Guard to escort children to school, black children, the famous, part of American racist history. And I asked the question, why is it not possible for us to ensure that a university like that stays open, even if it means requiring state intervention and escorting children to students to school and investing the university with soldiers, rather than have one single institution closed down? So because it's going to have a ripple effect. And of course, after Maiduguri, then came others. Jos, some partially closed down. Kaduna, even those I used to call the ecumenical cities of Nigeria, like Jos and Kaduna. The disease has spread over there. Not just universities, parents were being slaughtered, were being killed for sending their children to school. Teachers were being tied and their throats cut for teaching in school. And we waited and we allowed this to reach a point where the entire might of the military had to be used, because we did not take it seriously early enough. That's
a very interesting argument that you present there, particularly in the South African context. I'm sure you'll be aware of the reactions we've had in our own universities and the role of security in universities and police being criticized by many who say, universities are supposed to be spaces of open engagement and intellectual engagement, and not being militarized in that kind of way. But you are saying that given the option between closing down a university and using the might of the state to keep it open, you'd rather go for the latter?
The university itself must take the decision. I insist on that. There's no reason at all why the university, recognizing the fact that it cannot protect itself, it then has a responsibility to appeal either to the state security or to the central security. But the essential thing is that a minority, extremist minority, should not be allowed for 1 minute to remain in control of campuses. But in addition, I was going to say, in addition, simultaneously, to start a process of retuning the minds of students. Because the students themselves, some of these students, were among those who were responsible for the closing of universities. And the university function, what it's good at, is to deal with the mind, to invest the mind with ideas which you and I will consider progressive, but ultimately ideas which benefit humanity in general. So it's twofold. If you lose the body, you lose the mind. Somebody comes and kills off your student, that's a mind already dispatched. Is that acceptable or not? But simultaneously, there has to be increased funding for even extreme experiments in intellectual reformulation, in mental reconditioning. Human beings, young minds have to be detoxified from this pernicious kind of doctrine which makes it right for you to take other people's lives because they want to be enlightened. It's war. Now, in terms of the physical protection, I think we've reached a point where universities should raise their own defense forces in certain extreme conditions. I don't see why not. You have, for instance, military cadres. I was a member of my university, what were they called at the time? It was called the officer cadre,
Sure.
For some time.
Yeah.
I joined naturally. And I don't see why universities don't recognize the fact that we are under extreme attack, extreme assault, in which a group of people decide it's a crime to go to school.
What's giving traction to some of these extremist thoughts, these extremist ideas that are threatening such institutions as university and learning? What's giving it traction, especially among young Africans?
What gave it the attraction?
What's giving it traction? What's
the
making
traction,
it, yes.
which is that? Well, as I said, neglect, and also remember that this is not happening in one place only. You now have a universal march of retrogression, of fundamentalist thinking. I deliberately mentioned one or two from other religions just for us to understand that it's not just pertaining to one religion, but that religion, Islam, at the moment happens to be the most aggressive, or at least a version of Islam. Because Muslims themselves, they denounce these extremists. And those who denounce the extremists, their position should be reinforced by action from within the universities and the state. So it's a question, if you have a doctrine and you are sufficiently committed to it, even if you're 2, in a short while you'll become 6, another period, then we give it a few more months, you're going to become 60. And then you feel you have attained not merely the power, but the authority, the mysterious authority to subjugate your entire environment to your own extremist thinking. So it's sometimes shall we say, the liberal philosophy of the university becomes its own worst enemy. I don't say we should abandon it. All I mean is that it's got to be reinforced. It's not enough to have a liberal philosophy, a liberal view of humanity, of human society, cohabitation, etc., progressive. It's not enough sometimes. You just have to defend it.
Just taking it out of the campuses and universities for a moment, what is your understanding of the rise in retrogressive thinking and fundamentalism? For instance, the election of Donald Trump, for example. What is your understanding of that big phenomenon in the US?
Well, did you follow the campaign? As far as I was concerned, that man should have been arrested and tried a long time ago for hate speeches. It's as elementary as that. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What was worse was I couldn't believe the sight of hordes of ecstatic supporters. Every outrageous statement, every racist statement, every xenophobic statement was applauded, wildly cheering hordes. I said, well, this society is changing backwards right before our very eyes. The United States had moved, had progressed so far that we on the African continent could boast that we now had a contemporary descendant from the African continent ruling the United States. And suddenly, somebody is making speeches which are supposed to reverse those gains. and you had masses of people cheering. And this at a particular period where, as I said in one of those interviews, by the way, when I said I was getting out, I said, did this man not realize that he was giving yardage to the phenomenon of black killings in the United States? I said during that interview that it was as if the police had evolved a new fraternity requirement for remaining members of the police force, and that was to go out and kill a black man. You saw the rise, the protests across the country. One killing one day, replicated over there. And during that period, somebody wants to be the leader of a nation, is giving xenophobic speeches. The damage is already done, whether we like it or not. Mm. People's minds, extreme right wing, has been empowered across the nation. The notion, that sense of undeclared impunity, especially against minorities, has been encouraged, and would see it enhanced. Whether he even wants to do a 180-degree turn, the fact is that hatred has been sown, the country has been further divided.
So in the interest of time, as a final question, do you still intend to cut up your green card? He's now been elected as president of the US.
Oh, I've done it.
You've done it?
I've done it.
Denouncing your...
I've done it. When I was ready, when I finished, I negotiated my departure. Yeah, I cut it up.
On that principle that you simply could not fathom living?
It's people don't, I respond to environment, maybe in an oversensitive way and so on. I respond to my environment if it's not at least close to what I consider possible. I don't even enjoy my glass of wine in that environment. So we're not talking profound issues now. I'm just saying that I'm not at ease in that environment. And if I have alternatives, why should I stay in an environment that doesn't make me comfortable? Why? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
So no longer a U.S. citizen in any kind?
And I've already packed my rules. I've negotiated, as I said, my engagements. I did the last one in New York University, you know, and that's it.